Welcome, welcome, testing. Welcome everyone to the Go Blue online marketing series. We are just going to slowly ramp up to the beginning of the webinar, which will last 1 hour. As people come online, we're expecting 20 or 30 people to join us today, and we're excited with the interest and the participation in this first of 6 webinars that we're going to be offering over the next 6 months to all of the registered users of the Go Blue Central America project. My name is Matt Humke. I'm the director of the Go Blue Central America project, and we'll make a few more introductions of who else will be presenting today shortly. We want to thank you all for your time today. Just a little brief introduction to today's workshop and the webinar series overall. As you all know, the Go Blue Central America project is a partnership with National Geographic, funded through a partnership between the United States USAID, as well as the Inter-American Development Bank. And the objective of the project is to really highlight and celebrate and promote the unique and authentic local attractions and businesses that make up coastal and marine destinations in Central America. As most of you know, because you are from these 2 places, we've started with 2 destinations, being Roatan, Honduras, and Bocas del Toro, Panama. And so we're welcoming Go Blue registered users from both of those destinations today. And the project obviously is about giving it a platform and opportunity for local businesses and local residents to let the world know under the banner of National Geographic what's unique about Roatan and Bocas del Toro. But another big effort that we're making this year with the Go Blue project is we are trying to both better promote and market the Go Blue website and the destinations and the participating businesses through a lot of the same online marketing tools and platforms that we'll talk about today. But another aspect of this is our big focus this year is also to empower you, the local business owners and the local residents of Go Blue destinations, to also be aware of and understand and harness the power of online marketing channels and tools like Facebook and like TripAdvisor and through website design. So that's really what today's webinar is all about, is beginning to introduce some of these very powerful online marketing tools to you, and to do it in a very practical way where you as business owners can use them and begin to harness them to bring more people through your door. A few quick notes before we get started. We invite you to ask questions throughout the workshop. There's a small chat window on your screen there. That should be a place where you can answer questions. You won't see them appear on your screen, but we are keeping track of all the questions, and we're going to dedicate 10 or 15 minutes towards the end of the webinar to address all of those questions, or as many as we can. And so we invite you to do that. We also want to mention that we'll be recording today's webinar, and we'll be sending out an email to all of you who registered. That will be a link to where you can download this webinar, both the slides as well as a recording of today's webinar. So once again, we thank you for participating. It's going to take about an hour, and we'll try and get everybody back out and enjoying your day within an hour. So moving on. Today's presenters include myself. Like I said, I work with Solimar International. Solimar is one of the project partners. We are the organization that has partnered with National Geographic around the world to implement the geotourism program, of which Go Blue Central America is the most recent geotourism program. And so I'm the director of that project. And joining me today is Gabe Cedar, who is Solimar's Director of Enterprise Marketing. He's our online marketing guru, and he'll be focusing on a lot of the technical content of today's presentation. All right, moving on. The overall goals for today's, or excuse me, for the overall marketing series is, number one, to begin to develop the awareness of local business owners, or to deepen the knowledge of local business owners of how to use online marketing and what are the core principles behind online marketing. Second is to really begin to introduce you to the tools and the options that exist. The power of online marketing is that it's not only highly effective, it's also often very inexpensive. So it's a really great option for many of the micro, small, and medium-sized businesses that are part of GoBlue. The third thing is we want to start to point you in specific resources and websites where you can begin, again, harnessing the power of online marketing and using some of these online channels. And ultimately, our goal here is to help you bring more customers through your door, to help get the word out of your unique businesses, the unique tours, attractions, experiences that you offer, and help you get that story out there, get that message out there, so people and travelers and potential customers find your business. So just to quickly touch on the overall series that we're going to be offering, today is the first webinar, an introduction to online marketing. Today we're going to touch on sort of a lot of those core principles and begin to get you started on some of those practical steps to using online marketing. In September, we're going to focus an entire webinar to how to either assess your website to make sure it's optimized for search engines and for the content that travelers are looking for, or maybe how to re-envision or redesign your website. The third webinar in October is going to be focused on some principles and techniques for developing content. How to what are good examples of travel writing? What's the type of information that people are looking for that you should be incorporating into your website or into your Facebook page that, again, helps capture the attention of people looking for that content online. The fourth webinar in November, we're going to focus a lot on social media and how the various social media outlets like Facebook can be used to increase the number of people who are finding your business online. The fifth webinar in December, we're going to look specifically at blogging. Blogging is a very effective and dynamic way to put information out there about your business or about your destination. It's a great way to have a dialogue or an exchange with your potential clientele, and it's just a very powerful tool also for people using web browsers like Safari or like Google to find information, and it's a great way to put content out there that will bring people to your business online. And then the last workshop in January, we're going to look at some of this great trend of peer-to-peer information sharing through websites like TripAdvisor and Lonely Planet. We're going to give some real specific pointers on how you can become a part of those conversations and how to use websites like TripAdvisor, again, to help promote your business. So moving on, we're going to take just 2 or 3 minutes to quickly touch on what we call our tip of the webinar. So this isn't as related to online marketing, but it's more of just a quick reminder on how you can use the GoBlue Central America website to promote your business as it is now. And today we're going to talk briefly about how to update your nomination. So everybody went through the nomination process last year where they created a nomination for their business. For example, we have the Eco Store in Roatan, and we want to let everybody know that you have total freedom to update that nomination anytime you like. And it can be when you maybe have a new tour or new products, maybe your hours have changed, or you want to update your prices. Maybe you have a new phone number, or you want to put up some new photos or video. These are all reasons for you to sign into the GoBlue Central America website using your username and update your nomination content. So next slide. So we're going to talk you briefly through how to do that. So the first thing you do is go to the Go Blue Central America website. The website's changed a little bit since you all went through the nomination process last year, but essentially it has the same functionality as it did when you did your initial nomination. So the first thing you're going to do after you go to the Central America website, you're going to go to this little box. If you could just go back one slide, please. You're going to go to this little box in the upper right-hand corner that says My Trip Planner, and that's your new place to sign in to your GoBlue user account. Next slide. So once you click on My Trip Planner, it's going to bring up the screen you see here, and you're going to see on the right-hand side that there's prompts for returning users to log in. So you enter the email address and the password that you use to create your nomination. This was a while ago, and I know I forget my passwords all the time. So if you happen to have forgotten your password, just enter your email address and click on that little box below the password that says Forgot Your Password, and the Go Blue Central America website will send you a new password. Next slide. Once you log into the system using your email address and username, you're going to click on this little box here on the right-hand column that says My Nomination Dashboard, and that's going to take you to, next slide, to a screen that shows all of the nominations that you've entered. So in this case, this is the My Nomination page for the person that nominated the Casa Buena Hotel restaurant, or excuse me, Casa Buena Hotel in Roatan, Honduras. And once you are on the screen, you simply click on your nomination. If you've done more than one nomination, you'll see all of the nominations listed there. And once you click on that nomination, the next screen will take you to the different options to update your nomination, whether you want to update your text, or maybe you want to, like I said, add a new photo or a video, update your contact information. Even if you've moved and you want to and replace your business location in a new location, you can do that as well. So that's just a quick summary of how you can update your nomination. We encourage you to do it. You have every power and every right to be updating that content, and that's our webinar, our nomination webinar tip of the day. And if we go to the next slide, the most important final step that you do is you go out and enjoy that great place you live, whether it's Roatan or Bocas. You are all lucky to live in such fantastic places. Okay, great. So I'm going to turn the webinar over now to Gabe Cedar, who's going to take us through more of the technical content.
Thanks, Matt. That was very good. Thank you for the introduction. So as Matt mentioned, our goals for today are just to sort of present an introduction to the concept of online marketing. And when we think about this, we have sort of 4 fundamental questions that we're going to try to address today. These are, at its simplest, what is online marketing? What do we mean by that? What sort of activities are we talking about? What sort of platforms are we talking about? And then the next question is, what are the advantages? Why should you be doing this as opposed to maybe offline marketing activities that you're already doing? Why should you try to scale up or scale down activities that you're already doing? We'll move into why is it important? So not just why is it important compared to offline marketing, but why is it important in and of itself? And finally, how do you get started? It's kind of the most important thing, I think, for everybody. So as Matt mentioned, today is just kind of an introduction. It's going to be pretty high level. We're going to move through a few different concepts, and then we're going to spend the next 6 months or so diving a little bit deeper into some of these concepts. So to get started, what do we mean by online marketing? The definition that we normally work with is that online marketing is a mix of activities that you do to promote your business to virtual audiences. So the idea is that there's lots of different activities and platforms that you can be doing. The most common would be something like a website. I think that most of you will have websites, not necessarily all of you, but certainly putting up a website would be kind of the first step to online marketing. Other activities or platforms that you could be using would be something like a blog, email marketing if you're using that, digital advertising, whether it's on social media or on websites, is certainly considered online marketing. Things like mobile, if you have a mobile app or if you have a mobile website, that would be a component. Social media is, a big activity. So if you have a Facebook page, then your online marketing, Twitter handle, anything like that. Also forums. So Matt mentioned TripAdvisor. That's a great example. Other examples would be something like the Lonely Planet Thorntree forum, and other peer-to-peer networks that people use when they're traveling, planning their travel. We could be talking about things like multimedia, so photo galleries, videos that you might have on something like YouTube, ebooks, anything like this, travel planners, would all be considered marketing online. Finally, a concept that we'll talk about a little bit today and more in the coming months is a concept of search engine optimization, or SEO. Essentially what this is it's presenting your content that you put online in such a way that it improves your rank on search engine result pages. So if somebody turns to Google and they're looking for any particular answer to a question or a piece of content, it's looking at how you improve your rank there. The most important sort of idea here is that online marketing isn't any one thing, but it's a mix of these things. And we'll talk about this sort of online marketing mix quite a bit in the coming months. The most important thing is just to consider all of these and to be sort of finding the balance and finding the right mix of activities for you or your business. Sort of important concept to think about when you first start marketing online is that some of these platforms may be new, but most of the concepts are not. We've said that most online marketing activities have offline marketing corollaries. So if you think about something like your website, well, really all this is your digital sales office or your storefront. It's a place where you hang out, where there's information about you and about your products and about your services. It's sort of the first place that people would think about looking for you or for your content. If you have posters up, either around town or in your office, and those correlate pretty well to pay-per-click ads, like you might see on Google, for instance, or banner ads that you would see on other websites. If you use newsletters or mailings, then those correlate with email. In both cases, you're trying to communicate directly to your audience. If you use word of mouth or guerrilla marketing around your destination, that correlates pretty well with social media, where people turn to their peers for information. If you use Yellow Pages is popular here, but if you use any sort of business directory, then that's kind of similar to SEO. It's getting your content up there in a place where people are looking for it. Any sort of reputation management or public relations, if you rely on referrals, that all relates or corresponds pretty closely with the idea of travel forums or peer-to-peer networks like Matt was mentioning. So this is just sort of a framework to start thinking about these things. Obviously, it's not a perfect analogy, but it sort of makes some of these more complicated concepts a little bit more simple to think about when you think about them this way. As we mentioned, we're going to be moving through a few different concepts today, and then we'll get into more detail as we move forward. But the important thing is to think about all of these as options, and they're not necessarily right for you. It all sort of correlates to what your strengths are and what your goals are and what your priorities are. So we encourage you as we move forward to think of all of these activities as options and to just consider the mix of activities that you feel would be right to promote your business. So that moves into the next concept here, which is what are the advantages of online marketing versus offline marketing? Obviously we just went through how a lot of these concepts are very similar, so it can be difficult to kind of weigh what your priority should be. So a few of the most obvious examples of the advantages of online marketing is, first of all, is that it's very targeted. So if you look at these two travelers on your screen, you can see that they're both very different individuals. They have different priorities. They're going to be looking for different products. They probably have different budgets and different interests. They want to be doing different things. It doesn't make any sense to be marketing a product or service to this guy on the left when maybe the woman on the right is your real audience. And so the advantage of online marketing is that you can create marketing that's very, very targeted. If you figure out where this woman on the right gets her information online, then you can create a message that's customized specifically to her. Likewise, if you figure out where this guy on the left is consuming his media online, then you can create a message that's targeted to him. This isn't necessarily the case with offline marketing. If you think of something like a poster in an airport, everybody that moves through the airport is going to see that. It becomes very hard to create a very targeted message. So when we start to talk about targeting, this is what we're talking about. The next advantage is that online marketing activities are timely. What we mean by this is that you can create messages that are very, very time bound. So if you have an activity that's happening next week, then you can create a message that's customized to that. This ties into a message being targeted, but so it's a slightly different concept. If you think about something like a radio ad that would run for a week or for 2 weeks, then you're not really binding it so closely in time as if you put out, say, a Facebook post that's very specific to something that's going on immediately. The sort of flip side to this is that content that you put online tends to live for a very long time online. So a blog post that you publish will really be available indefinitely online. So even though that piece of content might be specific to one period of time, it's still available for a very long time. If you think about something like a TV ad that just runs for the length of the ad, and you compare that to something like a YouTube video that you produce and you put on YouTube, the YouTube video will live for a very long time, which is obviously an advantage when you're trying to reach wide audiences. The next point, and this is something that Matt touched on briefly at the beginning, is that online marketing activities tend to be very cost effective. To begin with, they tend to cost less than offline activities. Putting a video on YouTube is free, for instance, as opposed to paying for a TV spot or something like this. But it's also cost effective because you can measure the impact that it's having. And you can say whether something is working or whether something's not working, which leads us to this next point, which is that online marketing activities tend to be very measurable. When you think about something like your website, you can measure with very, very simple and easy to use tools how many people are coming to your website, where they're coming from, how long they're staying. And you can start to use this information to create marketing activities that's more targeted, more timely, and more cost effective. Which brings us to the last point, which is that online marketing content tends to be very appreciated when you do it right. And what we mean by that is that there's a whole world of travelers out there that are looking for your content, whether they know it or not. What that means is that there are people right now that are planning a trip to your destination who are interested in the product or the service that you have, even if they haven't heard of you. So if you can put out information that makes their lives easier by helping them plan a trip, then they'll appreciate that content. So that sort of brings us into this next point, which is why online marketing is important in the first place. The answer to this is that online marketing is important because that's where your audiences are. We've got a few kind of ridiculous statistics that we can run through. So you can see that 65% of leisure travelers began researching online before deciding where or how to travel. And a typical traveler will visit up to 22 websites before booking a trip. What this sort of indicates is a trend that I'm sure that everybody here is aware of, which is that savvy travelers are really turning to the internet for their information. They're turning to this information before they start a trip, and even when they're on a trip, trying to decide what to do, where to go, how to get there, when to do it, all of this sort of thing. You can see here that 44% of travelers use their smartphones to research while they're traveling, and that for these travelers, resources like forums tend to be very, very valuable. Essentially what this means is that there's an opportunity for people who have the knowledge of destinations and of the travel industry to share this information with their target markets and to put this content out in a place where people are going to find it as they're planning a trip. So what this means in practice is making yourself visible on search engines, for instance. If you look at Google, there's a billion daily searches taking place on Google, 15 of which have never been searched, 15% of which have never been searched before. And if you go back to that previous statistic, 65% of travelers are on Google researching their trip. So they're searching for things like what to do in Boca del Toro or what to do in Roatan, when to go to Roatan, where to stay in Roatan, what to eat in Roatan. And this is all information that you know and that you'd love to be able to share with these audiences. Um, and so making a presence for yourself online and putting this content on places like blogs and websites improves your visibility on search engines, and it really allows people to be finding you much more easily. This is something that we'll go into in a little bit more detail in the coming weeks. The next kind of important platform that we'll talk about coming up is Facebook and social media in general. Um, Facebook is really valuable because it costs you nothing to set up a fan page for your business and to be maintaining it. You can see Facebook has a billion active users, by which I mean a user that goes on to the network at least once a week. These billion of users are generating 3.2 billion likes every day in 70 different languages in nearly every country in the world. And sort of mind-boggling statistic here is that 300 million photos are uploaded to Facebook every single day. What this means is that if you spend time on Facebook and you start sharing content on Facebook and you start engaging with your audience on Facebook, then you have the potential to reach just massive, massive audiences all over the world. The other sort of interesting thing about Facebook and about Google and these other platforms that we'll talk about is that you can start to be very specific on who you're sharing content with. You can start to tap communities that are really special because they're exactly the people that you're looking for. The concept of understanding your target audiences is something that we'll get into in a little bit. But that's another thing that's very powerful about this network. The last kind of network that we'd like to take a look at today is TripAdvisor, which I'm sure all of you are familiar with as well. TripAdvisor is the largest online travel forum with about 70 million unique monthly visitors. What's interesting about TripAdvisor is that when you plan a trip, nearly every destination you can think of and nearly every business at that destination is represented on TripAdvisor. This content is user generated. So for hotels, it's written by guests at the hotels, and restaurants, the restaurant guests, and so on. And so the perception for most users of the website is that the information that's on this is on the network is unbiased and accurate. And so it's become a very trusted resource. We had some statistics in front of us, but it's something like 60% of travelers use a forum like TripAdvisor as their most trusted resource online. And so learning how you can represent yourself well on these forums and how you can be engaging with guests that had both positive and negative experiences with your business becomes very, very, very important. Another advantage of TripAdvisor, other than just making this introduction, is actually engaging with your audience. TripAdvisor has a functionality that allows people to post questions and this sort of thing. And according to TripAdvisor, 90% of comments that are posted, and this is millions and millions and millions of comments, get a response within 24 hours, which means that if you're monitoring this forum and engaging with audiences and answering people's questions and addressing people's experiences, then you have this very unique opportunity to be representing your business for free on a forum that has a reach within the millions of people. So how do you get started? We'll go through sort of the mechanics in the coming months, but the most important things to start thinking about as we move forward are to know your audience. So this gets back to what we were talking about before with being able to target your message. This requires a pretty sophisticated knowledge of who it is you're trying to target. So some questions to start thinking about are, Something as simple as, well, what language do they speak? If you're targeting a Spanish-speaking audience, then you're going to want to look at different platforms and different types of content. And if it's in English or it's a German or Hebrew or Russian speaking audience. You can start to think about other demographic characteristics of your audience, things like how old they are, um, what's their educational background, and all these sorts of things, which all have an effect on what type of media they're trying to consume and where they're getting it. The other thing to think about when you're thinking about your audience is what we call psychographic characteristics. So this is, how are they thinking? What questions do they have? What concerns do they have? What are they turning online for? So this could be something like if somebody's traveling with children and they're asking questions like, well, is this place safe to bring my kids? Is this place kid friendly? Will they be able to go to bed early? This sort of thing. And so thinking about your audience and thinking about what sort of questions your audience has is very, very important. It allows you to start framing how you create content and publish it online. The next thing to think about is where your audience lives online. So obviously we just mentioned a couple of the major players, Google, Facebook, and TripAdvisor. But think about whether your audience is turning to other social networks, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, or much smaller social networks. What sort of online magazines are they reading? What sort of forums are they looking at? And this sort of thing. And this will sort of give you an idea of where you should be spending your time, where you should be engaging people. And obviously, this is going to require a little bit of research, and we'll run through a lot of these in the coming weeks. But the important thing is that you start to think about where your audience is living online. The next thing is to produce content that answers their questions. So if you run a dive shop, for instance, then you might start to think about what sort of questions your audience has. Have they been diving before? If not, what sort of concerns would they have? Well, safety might be an issue. They might want to know when to come or what to bring, and all of these sorts of questions. And whoever can get out there and answer their questions is going to command their attention. So putting yourself in the position of your audience and thinking about how you can be answering their questions online is going to put you obviously at a huge advantage. The final thing that we would look at with content is that you want to start producing content that is going to be inspiring your audience. What we mean by this is that it's not enough just to be answering questions and to be kind of a concierge for them. You also want to be sharing the type of content that get people really excited. So what we talk about here is things like images. One great photo can really inspire somebody to come to your place or to take a look at the types of services and activities that you provide. Other options here are things like testimonials, collecting the responses from previous guests and sharing that with your online audience can be very, very inspiring. One of the advantages of this type of inspirational content is that this is the type of content that people tend to share around within their networks. So, if we have just one great iconic image from your destination or of your activities, of your products, this is the type of thing that people will want to share within their networks and really expand the reach of the content that you're sharing around. As we get into a little bit more detail with what we're trying to do, we just have a few kind of simple next steps that you can start doing to start thinking about how you're doing right now. So 3 very simple things to start thinking about is whether you have a website, whether you have a Facebook fan page, and whether you're using TripAdvisor. And if so, you're thinking about, well, Look at your website from the perspective of your audiences, like we're talking about, and say, is the content that you're seeing here inspirational? Are you answering the types of questions that people might have? This sort of thing. Facebook fan pages, if you're not using one, is free and relatively simple to start up. If you're interested, we will be running through an instructional webinar on how to be doing this in a couple of months. And the final thing to think about is TripAdvisor. Look yourself up and see whether you're there. If so, what sort of comments are people leaving? Are you responding to these? What sort of images do you see that's associated with your business? And are these types of images that you would like to be seeing? And start to think about how you're represented online, whether it's accurate and inaccurate. And, we can start to look at how we'll be influencing this. We've got just a couple of resources here to sort of help you get started. The first is this Marketing Grader. What this is, just a free tool online. The URL is right here. It's just www.marketinggrader.com. Sorry, marketing.grader.com. And you can just enter the URL of your website and enter your email address. And it will run a quick report on your website. It gets into some fairly sophisticated concepts, but it just kind of presents you a snapshot of how you're doing. It presents some actionable activities that you can take to start improving not just your website, but also your social media, your online reputation, and that sort of thing. So this would be sort of a great activity for everybody to do before our next webinar, and we'll start talking about how we can start moving forward on this. As we're wrapping up too, I'd like to encourage everybody, if they have questions so far, to go ahead and enter those into the question, the chat box that you should have on your screen. And we'd love to start getting to these questions towards the end. The next thing we'd have you think about before the next webinar is your current online marketing mix, what you're doing and what's been successful so far. Think about what your priorities are moving forward, and what your strengths are. And hopefully we can start providing a little bit more clarity on how we move forward with some of these in the next webinars. The last thing we want to look at is what your online marketing goals are. And what we mean by this is that we should be thinking a little bit more specifically than just reaching a lot of people. Start thinking about what sort of outcomes you would like to see from your online marketing. Are you doing sales through your website right now? Can you make bookings or take reservations? If so, then increasing the number of reservations that you're making through the website might be an online marketing goal. On the other hand, if you're trying to promote an event, then that would be a very specific goal. Are you trying to get people to call you to make a reservation? Are you trying to get people to walk into your door? Are you trying to make more repeat customers or reach new audiences? Think about what these kind of specific goals are that you have, and we can start addressing these in the next couple of webinars. The next time, next month, we're going to run through how you optimize your website for travelers and for search engines. And I should add that we'll start this by running through how you can set up a website for yourself quickly and relatively easily. And then we'll move from that into what type of content you should be having on your website, what type of content people are looking for, whether it's written content or whether it's images or video. And we'll run through how we can be presenting these on your website in a way that helps you achieve your goals and also makes your website more attractive for search engines, which will improve your SEO like we had mentioned earlier. At this point, we've got a few questions that we can run through. I will I'll pass this off to Matt to see if he has any follow up while we kind of go through some of these questions that we've gotten so far. Um, in the meantime, I encourage everybody to continue posting questions. We've gotten a few so far that are very good. So Matt, I'll pass this back to you. Can you hear me?
Yep, great.
Great.
And something to mention related to questions that I did want to, I should have mentioned at the beginning of the webinar as well. We're really eager to hear from you all what you would like to learn through the course of these 6 webinars as well. We presented a specific curriculum that we think are some of the top priorities for starting to improve your online marketing. But we're also very open to other questions or other suggestions in terms of what would be helpful for you as small business owners or people trying to promote an event or something online. And you can direct those suggestions or feedback on these webinars as well. We are always open to ways that we can improve these webinars. You can direct those suggestions or feedback to info@gobluecentralamerica.org. So sorry, I don't have it up on the screen here, but just again, it's info, I-N-F-O, at gobluecentralamerica.org. And as I mentioned before, we've been planning these webinars to be held once a month over the next 6 months. But we're also interested to hear if that is if that's quick enough. If people are interested in maybe doing these webinars once every 2 weeks and moving through them a little bit faster. That's the kind of feedback that we're looking for. Please feel free to give us feedback on both what we're focusing on and the scheduling of the webinars. But at this point, we thought that once a month might be the best frequency to fit in everybody's busy schedules. Back to you, Gabe.
Thanks, Matt. So we just went through some of the questions here, and most of them were specific to 1 or 2 people, so we responded to those individually. The most important questions that we've seen here have been about the marketing grader that we mentioned just a minute ago, and those are open to everybody. So that's a free service that's on a different website that's not affiliated with us. So that's not specific to Focus and Roaton or even to GoBlue. If this type of resource is something that people find valuable, though, then this is definitely something that we can bring to the next webinar and share. There's a lot of different resources that we use that will shed a little bit of light into how you're performing in various aspects of your online marketing. So thanks for bringing that up, and we'll bring those to the next webinar for sure. Okay, so at this point, I guess we'll wrap this up. I'd like to thank everybody for coming in today, and thanks for your questions. If you have any other questions, Matt mentioned info@gobluecentralamerica.org. Is that right?
Exactly. info@gobluecentralamerica.org is the address for any feedback or comments. And just to let everybody know that we had a question in regards to who can participate in the webinars. As I've mentioned, our 2 initial sites are focused on Bocas del Toro and Roatan, but we also have some participants from Utila on the webinar. And we encourage you to, of course, you all from Utila can also participate in the webinars. If you have a registered user account in GoBlue, you will be receiving, reminders of the next webinar. And something else, we encourage everyone to forward the webinar information to other, other friends, family, or anybody else in the GoBlue destinations, Utila, Roatan, Bocas, who maybe are not aware of the webinar, who work in tourism, who are interested in marketing, and feel free to share the link to the webinar as well with those individuals. The more the merrier. We're here to help you, and we enjoy having as many people involved as possible. With that said, we will close this webinar up a little ahead of schedule so folks can get back to their daily lives, and doing what they're doing. We will, again, be announcing the next webinar similar to the way that we announce this webinar, and based on people's feedback, most likely that will be in early September. But again, we encourage you to give us some feedback in terms of what we're focusing on with these webinars and when you'd like to see them happen. Special thanks to Gabe for presenting this overview, and as he mentioned, with each next step, we will be digging deeper and deeper into the specifics of each of these topics that we've presented, and giving you more and more technical input and more tools that you can use to help promote your business. So we thank you for your time. Have a great day, and we'll see you and talk to you on the next webinar. Take care.